All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday, May 13th. Time is approximately 7 p.m., and I'm calling the Special Board of Adjustment meeting to order. We're going to have an approval of the agenda, Pledge of Allegiance announcements, and then our agenda item of the evening. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Motion's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion by the dais on the motion on the floor? Any discussion from the public on the motion on the floor of approval of the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Clark.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, does any members of the public have any announcements that they'd like to bring before the board? Seeing none, we'll move to our agenda items, and this number one is a trackline appeal of administrative decision. We are going to follow the quasi-judicial proceeding that we have for things like this, and let me go ahead and read the procedure into the record. And Mr. Attorney, you'll have something to read here in just a second. So, all right, we're entering quasi-judicial process. This means that the commission will stop being a legislative body and become a judicial body, which means that we have to follow certain rules and adhere to the different standard of decision making. The primary rule: we must follow concerns testimony and the substantial and competent evidence standard must be met with the judicial board when the judicial board makes this decision. The standards states the following: all public testimony will be given under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. The giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments will be limited to evidence of record. And just for clarification, the evidence is about the process which is ultimately the decision here tonight. Anything about the environmental and all that stuff is heard as a part of an application, which is another matter. So this is just about the process tonight. So now I'm going to ask the city attorney to read into the record the ordinance or resolution by title and number.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will do that in just a second, as soon as I get it up in front of me. And as you said, in our quasi-judicial procedure, we will be focusing on substantial and competent evidence. And while I'm pulling that up, if anyone intends to speak on the matter this evening, if you will stand up right now, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
We do.
And then would you also, when you come up to the podium, state your name, and if you didn't get sworn in and you decide that you want to say something, let us know that. We'll swear you in at that time. But, Mr. Mayor, all the parties have been sworn that are anticipating speaking this evening.
Thank you, Mr.
And I will
Attorney.
read the resolution right now. This is resolution number 2025-17, a resolution of the Board of Adjustment of the City of Newberry, Florida, assessing the appeal by track line of the stop work order issued by the administrative action of the City of Newberry, Florida, and provide an effective date. The appropriate motion at the appropriate time will be to pass resolution number 2025-17 as read by title only. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, before we begin, I'm going to go ahead and ask each member of the commission to disclose any ex parte communications, disclose whether any member physically inspected the property. Ex parte communications are any conversations or transmission of information that may have bearing on influence of any voting member's decision. Commissioner or board member Coleman?
Just drove by it, sat around and watched. That's it. I didn't actually go on to their property.
Okay. Board
I
member,
have driven onto the property and have had a discussion with one of the managers there, but I have an unbiased opinion for all this. This is not what is here tonight, so it has no influence on my vote.
okay. Member Farnsworth? Member Long? Okay, and I'm not a voting member, but I have not been by the property or anything. I don't have anything to disclose, other than communication from the applicant to us, a couple of weeks ago, which is the public record at this point. So now I'll also read through the order of presentations that will follow for every quasi-judicial item before us tonight. So we will have a staff overview by Director Hectus. The applicant will present as well. They will not have any time limit. Staff report and recommendation with no time limit. We will have the applicant may cross-examine, the staff may cross-examine, members of the decision-making body through the chair may ask questions of the staff, the applicant, or any of the participants, and final argument may be made by the applicant and the staff related solely to the evidence and the testimony presented at the hearing and introduced into the record. The city attorney will advise the decision-making body of the applicable law and the factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application. We'll have deliberations of the application, a motion on the floor, and the public will be able to also provide public comment after the deliberations. A vote will be taken to approve with conditions, continue, or deny the application. Understood? Madam Hectus, you have the floor.
All right.
Can I ask, you just said no time limit, but I was told earlier 30 minutes.
Yeah, there's going to be no time limit on this as a quasi.
Uh-huh. That's fine.
Roll it on one screen, but not the other.
Sorry. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Stacy Hectus, and I'm the Community Development Director here in Newberry. And this evening's item is for the track line appeal. So on the slides here, you will see the timeline that we've developed from the inception of our conversations. We met with them in October of 2024 to discuss their business. November, December, we continued the communication with Trackline and their representatives, gave them a path forward to operate their business on the Tibbetts property. We knew they were in the process of purchasing that. And the code section, Appendix A, Article 4, Section 4.17.2, which requires all industrial developments in the city to apply for a site and development plan. January, February, attention was brought to the fact that there was activity on the site, and in February, Trackline applied for a building permit for a temporary building, and at that time, it was confirmed that the stockpiling of railroad ties and grinding was occurring on the site without a permit. We notified them again that a site and development plan was required. In February 2025, staff had a pre-application meeting for a site and development plan submittal with Trackline Consultants JB Pro and Trackline staff Trent Marshall. It was confirmed that the stockpiling of railroad ties and grinding was occurring on the site without a permit per Mr. Marshall at that meeting. In March of 2025, discussions were had with Mr. Millay, the Trackline owner, and Mayor Marlowe, stating that, at the time, Mayor Marlowe, and stating that the deadline was April 11th of 2025, close of business, and it was essential that they meet that date, because at that point, if we had not received any submission, that we were going to place a stop work order on the property. April 11th comes around, the deadline was not met, so the building official, David Meyer, issued the stop work order on the property around 6:30 p.m. And on April 14th, Mr. Millay and other Trackline representatives had multiple discussions with staff the afternoon of the commission meeting. At the city commission meeting, under public comment, Mr. Millay came and verbally appealed to the city commission to lift the stop work order. At that meeting, Mr. Millay admitted to working on the site since January. And April 15th, the city received the appeal notice from Mr. Millay with Trackline. This appeal placed a stop work order on the property, and they continued to commence stockpiling and grinding of the railroad ties. April 28th, staff sent notices to parcel owners within 400 feet, posted the site, and placed posted the site and placed the notice of appeal for the Board of Adjustment set for May 13th today at 7 p.m. at City Hall, and a notice was also sent to the consultant and Mr. Millay. On May 6th, I received a communication from Dr. Gilbert from Alachua County EDP, and he contacted us to notify us that they had issued a cease of the grinding of the ties. And then May 13th, this evening, we are here to hear the Trackline appeal. And I'm here to answer any questions you have related to the timeline or anything else you have for me.
So, Stacy, as of right now, is proper paperwork been filed for all the application process, the business owners, the license, everything been filed?
We've only received the application
So
for
the
the
answer is
site
no?
and development plan. Yep, yes.
We have nothing here.
We have what? We have an application.
It has not been through the proper process.
It's just been submitted.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Stacy, with them starting work without any permits, and yet they were allowed to continue for quite a while, why is that?
Trying to be a good neighbor is the best I can describe. We were telling them that we had given them the path forward. We kept asking them to keep with the process that we had given them, and that's why we gave them the April 11th deadline, and based on what their consultant had said, and at that point, there was nothing else we could do.
See, I don't understand why there was even a deadline given. They should have been stopped at that point right there and then. If any business that comes to Newberry has to have permits, they have to come before the board and get approved for their site. And yet we all this has been circumvented for some reason. I just don't. And then after we stopped them, they put in an appeal, so they were able to start again. How is that possible when they don't have any permits to begin with?
So the language in the code allows that process to happen, that if someone appeals my decision, whatever the stop work order decision, whoever made the decision, our code actually puts a stay on their our stop work order and lets them continue to work until we file for the hearing, which is what we did, which we have 30 days to do. And we did, we
But they don't
immediately
have any
happened.
permits to start
Exactly.
Mr. Mayor,
in the beginning.
I want to say two things. One, I believe there was some transitionary elements and there was some claims that were made that staff was trying to research and trying to make sure that we were correct, to your first question. To the second question, at the very next meeting, you will have in front of you an emergency change to that appeal language. That's all I'm trying to say.
All right,
Anything,
that's all for now, yeah.
Member Long? Okay, all right. No further questions for the staff at the moment. The applicant will now come up and you can present
You want
your,
the motion? Yeah. Mhm. Yes, sorry.
oh, I was just waiting until after the applicant made their
Okay.
pitch. Does the applicant have a presentation? You got something right.
Mayor,
Come
we
on,
would like,
come on up.
we both come up.
Sure.
JB Pro, I'd like for him to talk about the process and where we were at on that, and what we doing in transfer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is Dave Malay, owner of Trackline, and
Yes,
I'm
sir.
here with JB Pro, Jay
Okay.
Brown with JB Pro. And I'd like for him to speak first about the process that we were involved in and where
Okay.
he was at on that process.
Okay.
And I would like to pick up after him, if that is fair.
You are more than welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Jay Brown. I'm the president of JB Pro. I'm a civil engineer by trade.
You just lift the microphone.
Oh, sorry about that.
Thank
I'm
you.
a civil engineer by trade, Jay Brown, JB Pro. I, don't know a lot about the issues related to, certain permits and things, but I can talk about the site plan and what happened there. So, when Trackline came to us and asked us to work on a site plan, we, got that project into our schedule. We scheduled a pre-application meeting like your staff member indicated just a few minutes ago, and we held that pre-application meeting with staff. And at that time, they said, we really need to get this done as soon as we can. What's the soonest you could, make this submittal? And we suggested April 11th. So that's where that date came from. This is my recollection, and granted, I'm just, providing information from our perspective, but that's where the April 11th came from. And Mr. Millay asked us if we could do that. We had to get surveys. We had to, do stormwater management, a lot of research, soil borings, different things that we have to do for our site. So, when that time came along, unfortunately, we weren't aware of the fact that there was anything pending, any kind of stop work order, anything like that. So April 11th, the date that was mentioned, was a Friday. And that Friday, your staff is usually not working. So to us, it was our deadline, and we still had a few things to do at the end of the day at 5 o'clock on Friday. So we said, we're going to finish them up. And when we submit on those plans, we submit electronically. So it's submitted to your team electronically. So we submitted, I believe it was Saturday, the next day, once we did a few more things. And we expected that when they walked in Monday morning to work, since they weren't working Friday, that it would be effectively the same thing as submitting at 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon. We had no idea there was any kind of pending stop work order or anything like that. And if we had known, we could have just made that submittal at 4:50 or whatever on Friday afternoon. So unfortunately, we did not know that. So I just want to put that on record, that we just had no idea that there was any kind of date-dependent thing. It was our date that we proffered to make that submittal on April 11th, and I think that's where that date came from. And I think your staff was very willing to work with us and, enable that date that worked for our company in terms of our schedule and what we had to do to get this done. So from that standpoint, so that was roughly a month ago. And then the discussion that Ms. Hectus had about, what transpired after that. We weren't necessarily involved with that, but I do think that one of the issues is that, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe she can correct me if I'm wrong about this, because it's just my understanding again, but I believe that our application has been in abeyance since we made that submittal, and there hasn't been any review on that application pending, this hearing today. So if that's the case, potentially we could have had this, gone a lot further by now, and we could maybe even come before you with, potentially something close to an approved plan. But I think since then, the site plan has just been waiting until this action takes place. But our firm is committed to do anything that the city of Newberry needs, that our client needs, as far as the design and what's necessary to get them permitted. It's usually a very good, quick, friendly process with your staff. And again, we're willing to do, any comments that would be made by your staff, we'd turn those around. I think, Mr. Millay can probably do a better job explaining this, but there are some circumstances. This is a very unique situation in the sense that, the client is the cement plant and they have to go continuously. And I think the issue is just that his business model depends on him working, or else, he can't continue. So I hope you'll listen to what he has to say in terms of his business and what he's doing here for Newberry. I know he wants to be here. I know he wants to be, a good citizen and be a part of this community. So I hope you'll give him some consideration here. I know he didn't intentionally want to cause any issues. I've had enough conversations with him that I know he really wants to get this done. He's, pushing us, encouraging us to do everything we can to make sure he gets permitted as quickly as possible. So beyond that, I can answer any questions that y'all might have. But that's kind of where we are.
We want to hear from Mr. Millay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Millay?
Yes, sir. Again, I'm Dave Millay, and we do have a presentation, but it basically restates, who we are, what we do. And, I don't want to turn it into just a reading session. I know there's a lot of questions. As far as kind of coming up behind what Jay had said, when we met, and Stacy's correct with our dates, they're pretty close, within a day or two of some different things and conversations. But as far as permits and what was required, we've asked, and we've went with some dialogue along. And when we talked to everyone and got JB Pro involved, as far as our understanding and what we had to do was having faith in that process and trying to get all of our things submitted properly and timely from Swanee, Water Management District, and, the site plan and what proper permits we have. We went through the normal things of filing our, business with the state. And since then, and several things, we've actually engaged with the state of Florida, FDEP. We've done with Alachua County. We've worked with them in every way we can. And I just want to kind of walk through, if we can get to the presentation, and I think maybe this might help. I'll kind of tell you a little bit detail exactly what we do. And
On the left side.
left side?
Should
Okay.
be on all that.
Okay. That's changing up there, so hopefully that'll, okay. Yes,
Got it all loaded?
I sent it to Jordan a little late in the game.
You sent it to me?
Yes,
I
sir.
don't have anything.
Let's just go through. I can talk freely with it and very simply with it. And, but I think there are some pictures that we had on it to get it there, so I'm sorry. Can I send it over to you?
This doesn't have email.
Okay.
I have the letter for the appeal. I don't have an email for the house.
I sent it today at about 2 o'clock.
Last email I have is 4/16.
Do you happen to have them printed out? We can make copies of the slides?
I don't have it printed out.
Mr. Mayor, I would simply submit that the topic in front of you today is not the application, though. So if the presentation is about the business and the application, I'm not sure the lawyer can weigh in on that.
It's not about the business and application. It's about exactly what Trackline does. And it's some facts that I think are essential for what our process is. Okay, and I can freely talk about it, but I think it's good to see some pictures in it while we're trying to understand. But let me just kind of talk to everyone and make sure that everyone understands what TrackLine is trying to do here. So everyone is familiar with railroad ties, and everyone is familiar with stockpiling up along the railroads, landfills, those considerations. Being a long career railroad individual, then, that I have been, one of the common things is how do we properly handle railroad ties that come out of the current track when they're replaced with, a better model or newer ones. So, as TrackLine evolved as a company, we started to find a way to, turn it into an engineered beneficial fuel. So we looked into every possible makeup of a tie, because when it's originally put into the track, it's soiled, it's everything, but we're getting them 30 years out of the track. So basically what starts out around 20 pounds of weight in it, creosote and other asphalts and things in it, turns out to be about 5 pounds of something by the time it gets to, the finished product. It is dried. It is considered by the EPA, Army Corps of Engineers, to be a non-hazardous material. That is what we base it on our fact. We have operations at other locations. We've done our permits properly. We've tried to do everything to operate within that in processing these ties for our customers as an engineered beneficial fuel. And all we do is take the ties from the railroad. Once we receive them, we have to stockpile to build some inventory, but it's no different than the ties in the track, by the right of way. The only thing we're not doing is putting them in a landfill. When we process these ties, we have magnets and things on there that take like broken spikes off of them. Any kind of metal that's generated that's put on it to apply to the railroad is what we take out of it. This is a hardwood material. It has no real metal in it other than fossil fuel type origination metals, which is in dirt and everything else that we, are around on a daily basis. When we pull these ties out and we grind them, before we get to our full process of our, of our plant, our location, the site plan that we go along with, we try to be good stewards and control what we can. The things that we continue to stay on is we run soil tests, just so you guys will understand. I have been very clear with submitting what I have to DEP air pollution. They have everything that they need. We've talked to the Solid Waste Division, which handles engineered beneficial fuel for both plants and railroads. They have all the material they have. I ran a speedy test from Eurofins down in Orlando for Alachua County, which does the soil part. He has that data, Chris Gilbert does. So everyone has everything, and I've tried to supply everything to keep it safe for the community and also keep it from going to landfill, getting further in anywhere. The true fact about the ties is it is a non-hazardous material. It doesn't matter if we change it from its solid state to a malt state. And that part that we use and we try to supply, kilns or anything, in the cement industry, is trying to keep a stabilized fuel, keep things away from landscaping in people's yards, selling them at Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever. And by side of right-of-ways and in the track, we're trying to be environmentally conscious of taking a controlled non-hazardous material, processing that, putting it into a truck directly, and taking that to be processed by someone else.
Let me
Yes, sir.
let me help you out a little bit. I didn't mean to misspeak about your process or what
Yes.
you're doing with the ties, but more about the process of getting the application in.
Okay.
And that part. So
Understood.
Tell us about that part
Okay.
on your side.
So, as Jay said, we have submitted everything, and it seems to be at a state process. When I did come here and meet, and so gracious, Mr. Marlowe worked with us, come out to the site, we looked at everything and said, we can do this, get this stuff in. I know that Jay Brown and his group at JB Pro has submitted everything to Swanee Water District. I think there was a couple adjustments to make, if I'm correct to that. As far as the rest of the permit, I think it's been tabled since that 12th that it was submitted, and nothing's been done with that. So we had been running on, your all's ability to provide us the continuance to run on the stay order under that same notion until, this hearing was set. And so, as far as we're concerned, the continuance to try to work with state, local, county, and everybody to try to get everything done, we're trying as rapidly and hard as possible to do that while we're operating.
Understood.
Yes, sir.
Understood. Anybody on members of the board have questions for Mr. Malay at this point? Mr. Farnsworth, go ahead.
Have you gotten any permits from anybody?
Here, I have not received any.
Anything from the state?
It's in process, sir.
Nothing from the county?
No, I just started with the county 2 weeks ago.
So why'd you start operating, sir, without permits?
So typically, what we do is we get in, meet with everyone, and we ask them what the process is, and we start that process. When we started operating, we made it very clear with Mike New and those folks what we intended to do. And we have done exactly what we intended to do, is try to start operating, supplying fuel, and doing the railroad with this as we apply for all these things.
Do you have a process or other processing places in the state?
I do, not in the state of Florida, I do
Not
not.
in the state of Florida? Nothing
No,
in
sir.
Crystal River, or you might have one in Crystal River? Is that
No, sir.
true? Okay. All right. But you knew you needed to have those permits before you started, I would think. I mean,
No, I understand the process, sir. Yes, sir. I understand that we have started permits, but it was very clear when we did start this permit process with everyone and the site plan and everything, that we were doing the right thing. And circumstances behind that, starting to stockpile the ties. We have to receive an inventory first to even start
but
anything.
you were not just receiving it, you were processing it.
That is true, sir. There's no, and full transparency, we communicated that as well.
And this really doesn't have anything to do with the permits. I'm just kind of curious, is the byproduct or the dust from the processing, you're saying that's not a hazard to people?
Let's just.
I'm not going to get into the EPA. We've run enough reports, but
Yeah.
I can tell you there's record with the EPA and with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers as a non-hazardous material.
You don't have to answer that, Mr. Malay.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Coleman.
How you doing?
Good, sir. You?
So who with the city staff gave you, who said, go ahead and you can do this without a permit?
Mr. Mike New.
He told you just to.
He said, I'm not going to tell you cease and desist. You file for that stuff, you get JB Pro involved, you do this. I'm not going to tell you to cease and desist.
Mr. Chair, I do feel compelled to say that part of the transition research that we did was trying to track down that claim. We can't find that in writing anywhere. We have an email from Mr. New that said, we love the business, we think it would be great for Argos, we think it'd be a good fit. We'll welcome you and expedite it. And then immediately in the next paragraph, he went on to outline a 15-step process of what you needed to do. So not debating Mr. Malay's word, just saying we have not been able to find that in writing anywhere.
Let me be clear. That was a conversation. It did not circumvent him telling me we need to pursue what we need to pursue.
Okay. Well, and I know this fall's eye is about the permit issue. And it didn't go to planning and zoning, number one. No approval by us. You told me who gave you, were supposed to. But I have a problem with companies that think they can come into the city and begin operation. I wrote this last night. And then ignore multiple attempts by staff to correct the issues. I hate that. Then using pressure tactics such as warning us of loss of jobs and, Argos. Hey, I'll be the first one to say, I'm not going to bow to Argos. I'm not doing it. I might be the only commissioner sitting up here, but by God, I don't care. So, I mean, the strong arm tactic, oh my God, we're going to lose, you're going to lose
jobs, revenue, and, honestly, personally, and I know this is quasi, but you should be on 120 acres out there in, Gilchrist County or somewhere, where there's a track line somewhere, doing this instead of where people are painting cars in there. I mean, you can't say it don't create dust and all that, but it does. And I'm not bringing in health issues, but the dust, I mean, there's, right there, they're one of the best, auto, whatever he's called, that
Mr.
fixes
Coleman.
cars.
Stay on process, but.
Hey, I'm on the process. I'm gonna stay and say what I need to say. So, I do not, I don't think you're a good fit here in the city of Newberry. I really don't. And if you're not getting a permit now, what's the next thing gonna be? You know, what's gonna happen? We're gonna come in here and say, hey, I got all my constituents out here saying I don't like this. Well, he got a permit. He got approved. It's not a good fit, sir. I think it's a great operation, but it's not a good fit. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I respond?
Go ahead.
So, when we approached everyone, emails alike and everything, when my team came down here in February, they asked point blank, what else do we need to do? What applications, what forms do we need to continue and get this thing, to keep this ball rolling? They're not been sworn in here, but Mr. Marshall can tell you about that meeting and about him asking those questions, and we don't have an email with a point to click, get this, go after this to do these things. And we have continued to ask that and ask everyone, what do we need to do to be in compliance? And when we don't get the proper forms and those things, I don't think we should be held totally responsible for that, because we have asked. And I have asked personally.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
We can
Chair.
redirect that with
Yes.
staff when we bring them back up, for sure. Any other questions on the board? Member Long? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would just reiterate that the email that we have found from previous manager Mike New said in the very second paragraph, these are the steps that you have to go through. So I understand there may have been a disconnect in some email at some point in some time, and that email was from February or
So that was
before
February.
Christmas. But in that, there was a list of, here's an outline of the process. And we did have a pre-application meeting in October as well that also outlined. So just trying to make sure that all the facts were being stated fairly.
All right. You have anything else at
No,
the
sir.
moment? Okay, all right. Ms. Stacy, come back up. Thank you, sir. So it sounds like there was a couple of questions about timing that came up. I guess, when was the email from former city manager Mike New?
Oh, sorry, right here. Sorry. It would have been on or around February 12th.
About
Where's your
February
date on
12th? Okay. Hold on.
Yes, February 12th.
February 12th, okay. So you had the discussions in October, continued discussions in November and December. We have an email from Mike at May 12th, right?
Sorry.
And It sounds like the applicant is contending that we've not communicated a process or something that was brought up by Commissioner Coleman.
We've
Can you speak to that?
Yeah, we've done it many times in multiple emails with Mr. Millay, Mr. Marshall, Mr. Spear. We also had a sit-down at the pre-application meeting with them. Jamie was in attendance, Uma was in attendance. We had
Which is the February 25th?
February 25th meeting where we spelled it all out. They had their representative Logan there from JB Pro. She knew exactly what she needed to do to get the site and development plan prepped and ready to be submitted to us, and it was very clear. And she knew exactly what she needed to do.
Okay. Okay. I guess we can go to the cross-examination portion. So the applicant has the opportunity to cross-examine staff. So you'll have
Mr.
a
Mayor,
chance
can
to cross-examine the staff about what they're saying. Okay, just in just 1 second. Go ahead.
Dallas Lee, interim city manager. Mr. Mayor, I just want to read into the record the email that former city manager sent to staff on February 20th.
Okay.
I'm just going to read a portion of it.
This is
Stacy,
not the email from the 12th. This is an email
this is
on the
a
20th.
subsequent email from the 12th. He
Okay.
forwarded to staff as part of his transition
Okay,
to leave the city.
okay.
Stacy John Paul, I have been contacted regarding installation of the office building at the Trackline property in the industrial park. I understand from you that we require a site plan submittal from Trackline and subsequent approval of the same permit installation of an office building on that site. This aligns with the direction that you have provided to Mr. Millay at Trackline in late October, and that I subsequently affirmed to him in November. I spoke to Mr. Millay today. He indicated that they need the office building for the site. He also indicated they've retained JB Pro to prepare the site plan. We believe the site plan should be submitted within 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I could read this into the staff, into the record as well. It's an email from October 16th from Mrs. Hectus to Mr. Millay.
Do you want to hear that?
Do you want to hear it? No? Okay.
Do you need to hear it?
No.
Okay, okay. Okay, what else do you have, Ms. Stacy?
Nothing.
Okay. At this time, Mr. Millay or Mr. Brown, do you wish to cross-examine anything that has been said by the staff?
Mr. Mayor, I don't necessarily wish to cross-examine the staff. I did have one thing that I felt was applicable based on the conversation from the commissioners. If you allow me to, just make one
I'll
comment.
give you some latitude.
Okay. I think there was, one thing that was said that was pretty important, and there's kind of been a little bit of discussion about it. It is oftentimes that when people have a piece of property and they're getting ready to start things, that they might go and do temporary things. I can think of a church that we were working on with in Newberry a couple of years ago, and they would go out and they would hold their worship on the property, and they would bring tents and they'd do this stuff. And in the meantime, we're doing a site plan because they wanted to build roads and they wanted to build impervious surface and they wanted to build stormwater. And I would just like to add that in this particular case, he hasn't done it, Mr. Millay hasn't done anything on that site that triggers a Swanee River Water Management District permit or the site plan. The reason for the site plan is because he wants to build a building for employees that he would bring in, and we'd have to have parking spaces and we'd have to build roads, and then he wants to build a building that he can, store material and have equipment under and stuff. So he hasn't done anything to violate any of the rules associated. He hasn't started building any of the site plan issues that are required. So I just, kind of wanted to make that clear, like from the standpoint of we have applied for the Swanee River permit and we expect it, any day now. And it will have stormwater that he has to build, and it'll have, some roadways, just like with the site plan that we've submitted to the city of Newberry. So he hasn't technically violated any issues associated with the site planning or anything like that. So I don't know if that was a little bit clear. So he hasn't built any impervious surface. He hasn't even really done anything yet that requires a site plan or requires a Swanee River permit. So he's not, that activity doesn't cause any issues with those things. But I know there's other issues to talk about. I just wanted to make sure that that point was made. He knows that he can't put, impervious surface down. He can't build roads. He can't bring his buildings in. He can't do any of those things until he gets the site plan approval from the city of Newberry and the Swanee River permit. So I just thought I would try to make that clear if that made any difference to anybody. So
Okay, all
thank
right.
you. And I don't have anything with staff because I think they're being, telling you like it is, telling us everything that happened. And there's always two sides to a story.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Was there something else that you wanted to bring forward?
I'm Trent Marshall, by the
Okay.
way, Stacy.
So just
I have
introduce
not been
yourself.
sworn in, so.
Yeah,
Trent
let's go ahead and
Marshall with
introduce
Trackline.
yourself and we'll get you sworn in, Mr. Marshall.
Yep,
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
That's Trent Marshall.
Yep, Trackline.
Thank you, sir.
I apologize if I stepped on your toes. I didn't mean to do that. Normally you do the swearing in, so I didn't.
Yeah, just a point of reference with regards to the application process. I did sit in on the meeting as Stacy referenced. We, as JB Pro has said, we immediately engaged their services to submit our site plan. I believe I had a conversation with Stacy probably early March. You had called me regarding the site plan. I said, yes, we're working with JB Pro on it, and that we would have it submitted. Obviously, they set the deadline on it, the April 11th deadline. And I asked, I said, is there anything else we need at this time in the process? And I was told no. So, obviously, there's a lot of confusion that's gone on. We think we followed the process. I understand initially, per the timeline, that we keep getting reference back to October of last year. October was our initial sit-down with people with some of your staff about
Yep.
what we were going to do.
Sorry about that.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So we followed that process. Again, we did not even inquire the property till late January and shortly after we hired JB Pro for the site plan, so.
Mr. Marshall, when you said there wasn't anything additional that was required, could speculation, I suppose, but could the staff have been answering a question that they thought was nothing in addition to what we've already sent you in February? As you referenced that being that conversation in March, is that
Well,
right?
I was referencing the site plan from the pre-meeting with, I forget her name. Who was your, with Logan with JB Pro. We sat in, we went through the whole meeting. And at that point, I was under the assumption that, yeah, we were in good hands with JB Pro and everything we needed at the time to follow that process.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
Okay?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep, you're on.
Okay. The staff, first of all, was there anything else from the applicant, cross-examine staff, et cetera, anything like that?
I just have.
Come on up. Come on up.
I am willing to provide 100% of my emails on record. I've just went through everything from Mike New and everyone. That, asked several indices in here, what's the process? What do we need? Is there an application? This. It all goes to this site plan. It all goes to JB Pro. There is nothing on doing anything else, and I'm willing to provide 100% of my correspondence to anyone. That's asked several times by my staff in here. Stacy's responded, Mike's responded, saying they want to, even back to putting the building down and doing those things, but you got to have the site plan, you got to do these things. So there is correspondence from October 30th all the way up. I have 100% of that. I've just went through it on my phone. I've looked through everyone with Mike New. It's the same thing. What do we need to be doing? What are we processing that? So he sent me the ordinances saying, we're looking at stockpiling, how that falls. So we went through several categories, but there is no hit this link, go here, do this, or get this and do 1, 2, 3. It's not in any of these emails.
Okay.
But I am willing to provide 100% of this to any log site you need me to do.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Ms. Stacy, you want to cross-examine the applicant?
I just want, excuse me, to make something clear regarding something that Mr. Brown said. Preparing a site is different from stockpiling and pulling things on property and putting equipment on property and actually doing a physical activity on the property without a permit. We've given them a very clear path forward. The site and development plan was the initial process to go forward. We never received that until April 12th, after they've made clear statements that they had started this in January and so on and so forth. So the permit was never in play until the 12th of April. So,
Okay.
just want to make it clear.
Let me ask something.
Yes?
So, let's be clear on how the site plan is not the permit.
No.
Okay, so everybody right here, I've heard it about 14,000 times a night, site plan, site plan. The permit has not been done properly. We have not went to P&Z, and we haven't come back before this board where a lot of the questions that we're answering tonight, we shouldn't even be talking about. The proper thing tonight is the application proper or not? That is what we're here to do as a quasi.
The site and development plan proposal would have been written with a staff report, and planning and zoning would have reviewed it. And
Is it here tonight?
we have the application, but we have not processed it because of the appeal, because we just received it.
This is going to start all over then for the same thing. My question, Stacey, is do we have the proper, everything approved, ready to go?
No, we have to.
Okay. That's it.
Commissioner Long, were you reaching for the microphone?
My biggest thing is they don't have the process in.
Right.
From my time being on the planning and zoning, you have to go through proper steps. Staff has completely said what they've done. They haven't complied, so there's nothing else to talk about, in my opinion. They don't have things in place for us to even go through what the site is even doing, what they're operating in, how they're the hazardous waste. We haven't got to that point because we haven't seen anything that be operating on a site, whether it's a building or not. We're not operating properly. So for us to even go forward, they have to go through the process. I had to go through the process to put a shed in my yard. I mean, we gotta do the things that we've always required for everybody else in this city. We allow them to go through, then we're telling everybody else they can find some loophole to get operations done. And I don't think that's fair to anybody that's either in business or coming to Newberry to operate in business. So that's just my statement.
And they have made the application, we have just not processed it through the process. Planning and zoning would see it and review it and make comment. It would come to the city commission. There's a process, and while they have submitted it, they started the work prior to submitting.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Ms. Stacy. Mr. Marlowe?
I would also reiterate that staff's position of working with the applicant and working to expeditiously work that application through as quickly as humanly possible, that's absolutely still we do that for every applicant. We try to move them as quickly through the process as we can. We will still do that.
Okay. All right, let me just catch up on that. So we had the staff overview, we had the applicant do their presentation, staff did their presentation. We have had the cross-examination of each and decisions making through the ask questions of the applicant and participant. We've taken care of that. And let's at this time go ahead and have a motion on the floor so we can take public comment and then have closing arguments post that from both the applicant and/or staff. So what is the pleasure of the board at this point as far as the motion? And maybe, Ms. Stacy, we have a recommended motion, correct?
Yes, it's right on the board.
It's on the board? Okay. So the recommended motion is staff recommends the Board of Adjustment deny the appeal, lift the stay, and uphold the stop work order. What is the pleasure of the board?
Deny.
Is that a motion?
Motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion's been moved and properly seconded, of the recommended motion
Mr.
by
Mayor?
staff.
And that would be to pass resolution number 2025-17 as read by title only.
Okay. And what are the further deliberations by the board at this point? Okay. All right, well, we've moved to public comment. I'll just remind the members of the public that this really speaks to the process that has been followed or not followed by Trackline. That's what we're deciding, not the environmental, anything like that. So if you guys want to come up to the podium, just state your name, and you'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
Good evening, Mike Troiano. I'm the owner of Holt Metals. I have my partner's son, Corey Troiano, and Jeremiah McIntosh. We purchased that property right next door to the facility. I was going to say a lot of things tonight, but really I'm quite pissed about the lies that gentleman spoke about tonight. The railroad ties out there are brand new. There's creosote. There's water that's all contaminated. This has got to stop immediately, and I hope you guys can look at that and get that resolved, because it's not fair to have health concerns. I know you don't want to talk about environmental, but these guys are working right next door, and it's unacceptable to be in that position with a board like you to allow that to happen from the very beginning. So I expect you guys to shut this down now, and if they want to do it right, okay, I'm a business owner. I own 4 businesses. Talk about a shed. I came and run a landscape, put a new office. Took me a year just to get the permit. I'm all about it. I wish they could do a good business. I love it. But damn it, they better do it right. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next member of the public wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Chris Torrance. The only point I want to make is consistency. So we all have to follow rules and regulations to get whatever project is we want to do. I don't start building a house before I get the permit. Even if the homeowner says, yeah, go ahead and build my house, I still have to go through a process to do it. If we don't have consistency now, if we don't get in the habit of ask for forgiveness, then we don't have a backbone. So I'm just going to ask the commissioner for consistency.
Thank you, Mr. Torrance. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Joni Durden, and I'm here on behalf of an employee of the community in which I spend 50 hours. I had lots of concerns, but I'm going to respect your time. It's about the process tonight. With this process, as Commissioner Long stated, we each have processes to follow, and I understand they don't have a current business in the state of Florida. However, coming to the state of Florida and operating such an operation to just do what you want, I know the gentleman with the civil plan stated other people have a church, so forth. So you're telling me tonight that I can purchase land, dump oil, dump gas? It's my land. I don't know no better. I find that hard to believe. Somebody didn't know a permit had to be in place and liability of dust particles going all over employees that were sick, and that it had to come to this to stop a work order, and we're wasting all of our time because a process wasn't followed. So I would hope and recommendations that fines and penalties follow processes like this, because they do to us citizens that do this, and they should to business owners as well.
Thank you, Ms. Durd. Anybody else? Were you trying to come up? All right. Yes, sir.
Larry Lund, I was sworn in. My perspective is different. My perspective is what's going to go down in the future. I've been lied to twice, and many of my friends and his have died. Earth samples are still being done at Camp Lejeune. It's still freaking toxic. So think about your grandchildren and the children that come, your children and everybody else in the city. I think I heard somebody already say there's people sick.
Just direct your
Okay, sorry. I already
comments
heard,
to us.
I'm sorry, I already heard somebody was sick. And consistency. You can't build a home, you can't do anything. We need to look for the future. The future, that's what I see here about Newberry. We need to make sure the children are safe. That shit ain't safe, sorry. That's, on the PACT Act and Camp Lejeune, I'm all in all that, and thank you, United States government. That's all I got to say.
All right. Thank you for your comment, Mr. Lund. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? Okay. All right. I think we're at, fine.
I
Yes,
have
sir.
one question about the permit process.
Yes, sir.
Is there any special permitting for stuff like this?
Well, there's discussion about whether whether a special use permit would apply, and that would be part of the application process that we're on hold right now pending the appeal.
So does it,
yes.
my name is Lee Smith, by the way. So is it the business they're doing? Is it the materials? I mean, what requires a special permit?
There could be a number of different things, and, Ms. Stacy wouldn't be able to better answer that than I would necessarily, but there is a number of different things that could require that, use what's being done, what could be
Hazardous
done.
materials, non-hazardous materials?
All that
So who
stuff.
determines what's
So
hazardous?
even in the context of in any activity involved in an industrial use requires a site and development plan. And so that's the first step in the process. And if you look at our code, we have a provision under section 14.12, which sets forth all of the things that are needed under a site and development plan. And it talks about traffic, density, intensity, parking, screening, stormwater, which is a catch-up area, sanitary sewer, utilities, recreation facilities, open spaces, amenities that might be provided on the site. But then it also says in the last paragraph 11, which is other standards, such other standards that may be imposed by the land development regulations, which again throws in a lot of requirements under the site and development plan. Mostly, site and development plan is a kind of a pro forma procedure. But when you have an activity such as this, we're gonna be looking at all of the other standards under the code that would be provided to make sure and ensure that the groundwater is protected, neighbors are protected, surrounding uses are, buffered and properly protected. So that will be part of this process.
So we won't know if it's a special use permit until you find out if it's actually.
Yeah, we'll go through the application, information provided in the application, discussions with staff, all determine, if I'm correct, what direction we go with that application, whether there's a special use permit that would apply, et cetera.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, because I've only done a few things. I've never had to get a special use permit. But I know what it takes to do something
Understood.
that's fairly normal. It's not easy. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's move to final argument by the applicant, and then we'll have final argument by staff. Mr. Millay?
Yes, sir. I go back to the beginning, where we've asked several times. I would like to see what email someone is pointing to that lays out exactly what we do. Because I have walked through this, and I would tell the commission and the mayor, we've asked. We have followed. When they told us to go to JB Pro, we went right there. When I've asked to do anything, and Mr. Marlowe and I've had a few things, I've been right there. I've been on it. And I've done exactly what's been asked of me. If there's a permit or a link or something we're supposed to follow, we would have done it. We've had 2 or 3 staff members, myself, even, he's here, the landowner now, David Brown, was in several meetings with us too, with Mike New and everyone, asking what applications, what do we do, where do we click, what do we load up on? That does not exist. And for us to comply, we have to have a process to follow as well. That process, we believe we're following. And for us to set 30 days from April 12th on this site plan and not get anywhere, and we still don't have buildings and things like that, and we're operating in an open field, I find that to be an issue as well. So how can we comply if everybody's going to set on everything and not say do this? And I have visited 30-plus times to the city of Newberry, asking and trying to meet and trying to see things and try to get to the right orders. I have, even from the, like I said, anytime when we try to buy the property from Joey Glanzer, what is the process? Help us with that. Talk to everything. Contacting, emailing, calling. We don't have anything to rest on except get this site plan in, get it JB Pro, let us approve that, let us place it under the right code. We're even thinking about changing the code. We've talked about those things on different things, or updating the code. I shouldn't say change the code, updating the code. And where do we stand to have to get to these things?
Okay.
I think we've been good stewards to ask, and where is it? And have fell short on that because we haven't been give clear answer on that. And that's what I would say.
Okay.
And I do think sufficiently we have the email change to follow that and prove that.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malay. Ms. Stacy?
There's been clear direction. The fact that they're operating without the permit is the question here tonight.
Okay. Mr. Attorney, you want to advise the decision-making body of the applicable law and factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application?
This is substantial and competent evidence, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right. At this point, we have any further deliberation by the board? I'm just the concert conductor here. You guys are the board. You're the quasi judicial judge on the matter. The motion on the floor is to take staff's recommendation to deny the appeal, lift the stay, and uphold the stop work order. That's the motion on the floor. So that's what we'd further discuss. Have I missed anything, Mr. Bennett?
My only thing is, if the proper process would have went through, you would have had the time to wait for it to go through, where you wouldn't be rushed to feel as though you need to get things done right away. You would have had time to get with staff, to get with everybody in hand to get things done like everybody else that comes to the city that get a permit. There's no rush. You have to go through the steps. If it takes 30 days, if it takes 60 days, if it takes 90 days, you have to go through the steps to operate in Newberry. I've been on the planning zone for 3 years. We'll put everybody through the same process. Not sure what happened, not sure the miscommunication, but that's something that everybody has went through. Unfortunately, this is where you at. You have to go through the process. And if we're going to be consistent, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to change it because it's beneficial for anybody. And that's the way we're going to be consistent as possible. And if it takes 30, 60, or 90 days, unfortunately, that's what everybody has to go through to get things done. And that's where I stand with it.
Board Member Farnsworth? Clark? Mr. Coleman? Okay. Okay. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Motion passes. So at this point, maybe we should interject whether or not we want to direct staff to now pick up the application and start moving that forward through the process. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Understood? Okay. Any other topics for the members for discussion? Hearing none, any further from the public?
How do we go to the steps so this doesn't happen again? So we don't have another business come in that doesn't go through the proper steps.
Well, Mr. Manager, the incoming manager, he's made actual particular mention of that earlier, that they've got something forward coming for us.
And every other code we have out there that can be circumvented, wiggle through, we need to make sure we have everything as sealed as possible when permits come in.
I can stay here tonight publicly, Mr. Mayor, that this won't happen again.
Okay. Yes, sir. All right, meeting is adjourned. Stick around if you want to attend the special commission meeting that we have coming up. Can we do 5 minutes or 10 minutes? We'll do a 10-minute recess. Sir, bring him.
Hey,
they're actually under a stop already from both the State Department of Environmental Protection and the county environmental protection. We look through that. We have codes enforcement, Stacy over here. Everybody that spoke is neighbors, business neighbors of theirs, and they'll let us know. Hey. All right. I want to get this other meeting underway. Ms. Janine, do we have streaming going yet? We're good to go? Okay, all right. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Today is May 13th. Time is approximately 8:17 p.m., and we are calling this special commission meeting to order. We have an approval agenda with one item on the agenda regarding Champions Park Water Main Installation Project, followed by respective comments by the members of the board and staff. At this time, what is the pleasure of the approval of the agenda by the commission?
So moved. Second.
I hear a motion and a second by Farnsworth and Clark. Any discussion on the motion by the commission? Seeing none, any from the members of the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. The agenda is approved. Okay, fantastic. Well, our first item on the agenda is the Champions Park Water Main Installation. I understand, Rance, you are taking us through this, correct? Yes, sir. You have the floor.
Rookie, golly. Tonight I'm bringing to you guys the Champion Park Water Main. This project is necessary to bring the water system at Champions Park into compliance with FDEP permit regulations. Currently, the system is operating outside of permit conditions, making the improvement critical for ongoing operations and regulatory compliances. Additionally, the contractor that we have involved there is already on site. He is doing some work for Mr. Norfleet, so he can actually start we are able to save on the initial mobilization of the project, bringing it in around $90 a linear foot opposed to the $165 a linear foot. So there's a considerable cost savings in this. The recommended motion is to authorize the city manager to execute a contract, including owner direct purchasing in the amount of $221,507.48 for the installation of approximately 2,325 linear feet of 12-inch water main to Champions Park with Coleman Construction.
Mr. Mayor, I want to add that the commission budgeted $700,000 for this project, and thanks to staff's due diligence, we're bringing it in at under $230,000, so significant savings for the city here.
And authorize, also on the recommendation, authorize the city manager to approve change orders not to exceed 15% of the contract amount.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Green. Any members of the commission have any questions for Mr. Green? We can hit the high points, reiterate the high points here. $90 a linear square foot instead of the 165. We had almost 700,000 budgeted. This will bring it in at 230 since we already have this company on site, essentially 2,300 plus linear feet of 12-inch main out to Champions. DEP's coming in June, and we can get this done by June and make sure we meet all of their compliance and those sorts of things. As far as the breakdown, it's a little over 50,000 just on the trenching. There is some asphalt at 3,500, and this is all in the backup material. Got some directional drilling expenses in the amount of around 9,000, and the materials of just under 160,000. So again, total project 230-ish, with approval by the manager to execute change orders not to exceed 15% of the contract amount. So, yes, sir, Mr. Farnsworth.
It's also my understanding that when Sandy Park is developed, they'll be paying us back this amount.
Yes, that's correct.
I think they're gonna pay it all back.
So we can't build them the 700,000, but we can build them the 230.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a win-win situation. But what other questions do we have?
So I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion's been moved by Mr. Farnsworth, seconded by Commissioner Clark. Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Mr. Long, Mr. Coleman? No. Any members of the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'll bring back to the commission. All of those, no more further discussion, I assume, in the 2 seconds. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, the motion passes unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Green. Appreciate the presentation. We will move to comments. Citizens have the first right for comments. You have up to 5 minutes. Seeing none, we'll go down the line. City manager first.
I have no comments.
Mr. Attorney? None. Madam Clerk?
None, thank you.
Commissioner Long, we'll start with you and then go to the right.
Doesn't that say group one?
Mr. Farnsworth? Clark?
God bless America, and God bless our troops that are deployed.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Coleman, last but not least. I have nothing either, so meeting is adjourned.